Hello, everyone. Welcome to the review session. Just like always, it's going to be a Jeopardy style. You can answer by turning on your mic or by texting in the chat. And while we wait for everyone to show up, please put your first and last name and your email in the chat so I could take attendance. Okay, let's begin. The first section's on water. What are the differences between fat-soluble and water-soluble vitamins? So fat soluble means they dissolve in fat, and the water soluble means they dissolve in water. And because of that, that explains how they're stored differently in our body. Fat soluble vitamins are stored in our liver, while water soluble vitamins can get flushed out more readily. So they don't really store that well. Um, And it also this determines that like, when you cook them, you could lose some of the vitamins. Like if you cook fat soluble vitamins in fat and you get rid of that fat, there's a lot of loss. And in water soluble vitamins, if you cook them in water, it leaches out into the water. And if you get rid of that water, you don't have as much vitamins than when you started with. Toxicity from fat-soluble vitamins are more common because you store them in your body, especially from vitamin A. That's the most frequent one. Um, yeah, there's more bioavailability in water-soluble vitamins. What is the most common source of vitamin and mineral toxicity? Yep, dietary supplements. It's an unregulated system in the US at least, so anyone could go into the pharmacy and buy whatever vitamin or mineral they would like, and especially like in any form. And since it's not like third party, it might be third party tested, it's not regulated by the federal government, then a lot of people, when they think they need a specific vitamin, they might consume too much of it and cause a lot of harmful health problems. How is sparkling water advised to not be consumed by itself? Why should you not drink sparkling water on its own? Why should you not sip on something carbonated for fun? Yeah, it's bad for your teeth. Carbonated water has a lot of carbon dioxide, which is acidic. And if you're not eating food with it, it isn't buffered and it will start eroding the enamel. So when you ever drink sparkling water, make sure to eat something with it. What two hormones participate in fluid conservation? ADH, antidiuretic hormone, and aldosterone. Both of them are used for fluid conservation. ADH is secreted by the pituitary gland when the concentration of solutes in the blood is high to tell the kidneys to reduce water excretion, which increases blood volume. Aldosterone is produced by adrenal glands when blood volume is low and tell kidneys to conserve sodium and water, which increases blood volume. What is hyponatremia? Low sodium levels in the blood. Yep, it's not enough electrolytes, specifically like not enough potassium or yeah, sodium. So when you drink a lot of water, a lot of people say like, "Oh, you can drown from it." And that is true because if you drink only water and not electrolytes, the water has nowhere to go and it will cause a lot of bloating and it can cause the blood to be dilated and cause swelling of the brain, nerves, and fluids in the lungs. So it's important if you drink a lot of water at once, especially if you're dehydrated, to always drink electrolytes with it, like a little bit of salt or some glucose or something that the water follows through osmosis. And one way to check if you are dehydrated that I think is really fun is the skin prick test. You just pinch your skin, the skin pinch test. You pinch your skin, and if it holds its shape, that means you're dehydrated. But if it quickly like falls, especially if you do it at like your joints, you just pinch and let go. And if it falls slowly, it's fine. But if it stays there, you should probably drink a little bit of water with some electrolytes. Okay, this section's on vitamins. What are the differences between retinoids and carotenoids? The difference is the sources. They're both forms of vitamin A, but retinoids come from animal sources while carotenoids come from plant sources. And because of that, their structures look different, their chemical structures look different. And the retinoids, they store in our body, they're stored in the liver. And carotenoids, they're more bioavailable. I mean, they're not as bioavailable because they're not stored. And so when you consume a lot of retinoids, there is a lot of bioavailability and it's easier to get vitamin A toxicity. You get more sick from that. While if you eat a lot of carrots, it's harder for you to get sick from that because it's not as bioavailable. It is not an active form, while retinoids are. How is vitamin E an antioxidant? This is a really cool concept. Vitamin E, it has an extra electrons or hydrogens. So when it's like walking around in your body, it's donating its extra electrons to free radicals. Free radicals are very unstable, so they steal electrons to be stable. So if vitamin E is going around donating its electrons, then the free radicals are like chilled out, like they're not stealing anymore. And it's really important to areas exposed to high levels of oxygen, like red blood cells and lungs. How is vitamin D made? This is actually a trick question. Vitamin D is not a vitamin, it's a hormone. So when the vitamin D precursor in our skin is exposed to sunlight, it travels as an inactive vitamin D3 to the liver, where it travels to calcidiol in the kidney to become an active form of D3 calcidiol. So it's not really a vitamin, it's a hormone. And that's why they say you can get vitamin D from the sun, and it's because of this process. How does vitamin D regulate calcium? It actually has a chain reaction. There's three things that occurs. And the first thing is that it increases absorption of calcium in the small intestines. So sometimes there's like nutrients that just passes through our system and isn't absorbed as quickly. Calcium is sort of one of them. So if you go in the sun, it goes through that whole process for vitamin D, and then it increases absorption of calcium in the small intestines. And the second thing it does, it decreases calcium excretion in the urine. So you hold on to more calcium, because if there's too much calcium, that's your bone, that can't even be stored in your bones. Sometimes it gets excreted in the urine. So you lose a lot of it, unfortunately. And the third thing it does, it increases osteoclast activities, which means you're constantly breaking down old bones in your body, and it releases the calcium from the bones into the blood. So it does three things to regulate calcium in your body. So it's important to go out in the sun. What vitamins and minerals in grains are enriched when you remove bran, germ, and husk? So when you remove these three things, it gets rid of a lot of nutrition as well as phytochemicals. Iron is the only mineral that is true. So they put it back in. The other three is riboflavin, niacin, and folic acid. These four things were decided by the federal government to put back into grains, because when they were first getting rid of all of these three things to make it more shelf stable, to make it more homogeneous, to make it more appealing to use, to look at. It got rid of a lot of phytochemicals and nutrition. But then a lot of children were eating like cereal and bread and pasta and stuff, and like still being deficient. So they decided to put these four things back, but it's not a perfect 1-to-1 ratio. Okay, this section is on minerals. What minerals do we consume to maintain fluid balance? Sodium, potassium, and chloride. Like we talked about earlier, about how water follows um the electrolytes. These are electrolytes. There's some of them. How are minerals stored in our body? We talked earlier about how fat soluble vitamins are stored and how water soluble vitamins are stored, but how are minerals stored? We also talked about a specific one: calcium is stored in our bones, as well as phosphorus, magnesium, and fluoride. Fluoride is stored in our teeth. Our liver has a lot. It has iron, copper, zinc, and some trace minerals. That's why a lot of fishermen, they eat the liver of like fishes, because it's really mineral rich. and how like pate is also very coveted in like French and like Vietnamese culture because it's really mineral rich. Some is stored in various tissues and some remain in the bloodstream. Some in the muscle tissue, organs, and glands. Yeah, but the bones and liver store a lot of them. What is the protein that carries most of the body's copper in the blood? Ceruloplasmin. What regulates thyroid hormone? What mineral? I'll give you a hint. Sometimes you could find it in enriched salt. So they put it in common table salt so people will stop being deficient in it. Yep, iodine. Iodine regulates the thyroid. Oh, this is talking about specifically what gland, the thyroid gland. It regulates thyroid hormone. And it is an interesting gland because usually you put stuff in like a system and then it produces. But this one is always actively like producing thyroid hormone because it regulates metabolic rate and growth. And you consume iodine to like put a limit to it. If you understand what I mean, like you put a limit to it so the thyroid hormone won't keep producing. The thyroid gland won't keep producing a thyroid hormone because if it keeps producing it, it creates these like gnarly masses on the side of your neck called goiters. And so consuming iodine could help regulate that. What are the functions of zinc? Zinc is pretty cool. You can use it as sunscreen too. But for nutrition specifically, it helps with DNA synthesis and function, protein metabolism, wound healing, and growth. If you don't consume enough zinc, your wounds will struggle to heal. It also helps with the development of bones and reproductive organs in infant development, in fetus development, and the storage, release, and function of insulin, cell membrane structure and function, and its importance as a cofactor in antioxidant reaction and white blood cell formation. Also, as a college student, you should know that zinc also helps with alcohol metabolism too. So, consuming some of zinc could prevent um, bad digestion from alcohol. Nutrition, nutrient deficient diseases. What is pellagra? Which nutrient is this a deficiency for? Vitamin B3 or niacin. And this disease looks like rough or scaly skin with symptoms of dermatitis, diarrhea, dementia, and death. The 4Ds that a lot of the nutrition deficiencies do display symptoms of. What is beriberi? Which nutrition deficiency causes this? B1 or thiamine. It prevents glucose from being metabolized into ATP and it results in weakness, loss of appetite, irritability, tingling, and loss of muscle coordination because it makes a lot of sense. You can't make ATP, so you feel a lot of sluggishness, which looks like all these symptoms. What is osteoporosis? Osteoporosis. It's a pediatric to geriatric, oh, a pediatric disease with geriatric consequence. And this is the disease itself is basically a porous and fragile bones due to low mineral density. But this is like a lifelong um cause and effect kind of thing because as a child, as your bones are growing, you are replenishing it and often like storing a lot of minerals like we talked about, like calcium, phosphorus, and fluoride are stored in your bones. So if you like are depleting those resources and not replenishing it, then it's going to cause a lot of porosity. There's going to be a lot of holes into it, which will make them more fragile. Like it's very spongy. And prevention of this is weight bearing physical activity. So weight bearing, like carrying a lot of weight. It's just putting on your backpack. You're walking to school. You're like, oh, should I carry that book or not? Just carry it because it'll be good for you long term. Unless you have back problems, then maybe take it off a bit or whatever your doctor says. But for osteoporosis, a lot of women tend to have it, especially when they're in menopause, because female bodies are smaller than male bodies. So smaller bodies means smaller bones, and having a lot of bone, like shorter bones, mean you have less storage for things. And therefore, you probably use it more. There's 1% of all of our calcium is in our blood, and the 99% is in our body, in our bones. So and we need calcium for like muscle contractions and stuff. So as you deplete that 1% in your blood, you're going to start taking it from your bones. So it's important to consume a lot of calcium as well as use weight bearing activities because every time like you move your muscles with heavy weights, your bones are actually a bit flexible. So they like move a bit, and that little movement help encourage all the osteoblasts and osteoclasts to like break down bones and create new ones. So that's really important to maintain healthy bone health to prevent this disease. And there's a lot to say about it because it's a very common disease, unfortunately. What causes scurvy? And these are the things that a lot of sailors and pirates get. Lack of vitamin C, that's true. It's a vitamin C deficiency, which results in reduced collagen synthesis, bruising, bleeding gums, and poor wound healing. And they don't eat a lot of vegetables or fruits when they're out in sea, especially oranges. So whenever they come back in shore, it's important for them to eat a lot of oranges because this is one of the nutrition deficient diseases that is reversible at the early stages. Of course, there could be like if you're too far in the stages of like poor wound healing and bleeding gums, it could cause other problems that aren't reversible. But as soon as like you notice signs of these things and eat like an orange or something like that, then it could reverse it, which is pretty cool. What causes megaloblastic anemia? Which this is actually two nutrient. So earlier we're talking about how it's folate and vitamin B12 deficiency. We're talking about how blood, or like sometimes if you don't consume enough of something, the cells will struggle to like work. But for this one, like the blood cells will struggle to divide because it doesn't have enough folate or vitamin B12. So if it doesn't have enough of either, red blood cells will struggle to divide, leaving large immature red blood cells. And our blood cells are the size, are like a coin, like really small, really like small. Like if you line them all up, I mean, they're the size of a capillary like hole. And if they're too big, they could cause more blood clots and they won't function the same. So it's important to eat enough folate and vitamin B12. Okay, this section's on fitness and sports intro. What is exercise? Exercise is the physical activities that are planned, repetitive, and intended to improve physical fitness. What is the FIT principle? The FITT principle is an acronym to help plan a balanced fitness program. Frequency, intensity, time, and type of exercise. The important thing is to variety. Create a lot of variety in your fitness program to not only like cover like all the things you need to exercise, but also it keeps the exercise more enjoyable. What are the benefits of flexibility exercises? Flexibility exercises, it helps improve the ability to move a joint through a full range of motion. It improves balance and stability, reduces risk of falls and injuries, especially among older adults. Yeah, reduce risk of injury. So it's really important to stretch after you exercise to increase the range you have. Because a lot of the times, not having a full range of motion is due to like joint and muscle needing to be stretched. But stretching before you exercise actually increases the risk of injury because you're lengthening a muscle. And when you lengthen a muscle, you weaken it. So it's important to do it afterwards. What energy compound would you use for the first 15 seconds of the burst of activity like jumping, like a quick sprint? Phosphocreatine is the energy compound that you usually have used. During heavy exercise, which macronutrient is metabolized primarily by skeletal muscles? Glucose. So it's important, especially if you're doing like a marathon or something, to be replenishing your glucose storages because we do have limited supply of that. And so people use gels or even like candy could be good for this. Quick energy sources. Okay, that concludes this study session. Please put your email and your first and last name in the chat so I could take attendance. I'll be staying here for if anyone has any questions left about anything. If not, you guys are free to go and good luck on your midterms.